said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy... Flyover State of Fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear. I don't know why I said that so weird. I'm here with my co-host, my man, my baby child. How are you doing, Brian?
My little baby boy. Man, I'm so good. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be talking. Man, it's such a good year for horror movies.
It's been
I'm
a great
excited
year.
to start burning through some of these newer horror movies. Like I got the fire back in me. You know,
So did I.
I'm
We got a
like
little
hot
break.
for horror again. It's
little
spooky
break.
season. It's Hearsttober.
Hearsttober's going strong.
Oh, very strong. Very strong. It starts off, you get a slow ramp up in Hearsttober because it always starts with the Halloween franchise rewatch. That's like half the month right there. 13 movies. We watch them all. We don't fuck around.
You do them like all, even like Halloween 2, like the zombie Halloween 2.
Trash. All the
trash. That to me is one of the most unwatchable.
The dregs. I've watched so many bad Halloween movies that I started to like Halloween Resurrection. It's like the Jason X of the Halloween franchise.
That's a fun sentiment. I think there's some Halloweens that are just not even, that can't cross that threshold, but that would.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, bad. But same thing. It's not bad, but I've come around to like every year. I'm like, you know what? Halloween 4, really strong. And it's not. It is.
No, it's not particularly good. It's only good because Halloween 5 is so very bad. I've actually become a Halloween 6 apologist. I think there's like a perfect cut of Halloween 6 somewhere between the theatrical cut and the producer's cut, where you keep the Cult of Thorns stuff, but you add back in the like violent kills. You know what I mean? Like let's blend these together.
I can't. You know what's weird about like
no, it's bad, man. I mean, come on, it's
and 5 too, because like we're so roped into the internet and Letterboxd. How the little child lead is Jamie Lloyd, and right, that's her name.
Daniel Harris.
Daniel Harris. Jamie Lloyd is the kid from Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, but no, Jamie Lloyd that's right. That's her name.
That's her name.
Jake, You're talking about Jake Lloyd.
I'm combining names.
Yeah.
Daniel Harris.
Jamie Lloyd is the character name from the girl from Halloween. Her real name, the actress, is Daniel Harris.
Yes. So Daniel Harris, it's so funny because they're like, there's comments and all these things, like, yeah, Daniel Harris, badass Stan. It's like, it's a child. You're liking the adults. Stop it. That is weird.
Stop being weird about it.
No, but speaking of that, that's one of the movies I did watch last week to kind of kick off. Do you mind if I take over? We're gonna just kind of run through what we watched, and I kind of rejiggered my
you shook off playoff baseball.
I did. And I dove headfirst in. I've been enjoying movies and actually like watching them, and it sounds weird. I've been doing that the last few months. So I'm just gonna ramble off a few that I like. That I missed, or that some are kind of new. Vampires vs. the Bronx on Netflix was very fun. It was cool. Just like a blend of like a Fright Night and Salem's Lot kind of story about kids in the Bronx fighting against vampires that are going to take over the Bronx.
Yeah.
Shea Wiggum,
was
it?
Did that come out around the same time as the? Because isn't there also a Jamie Foxx? Did I not watch a Jamie Foxx vampire movie?
Yeah, there's God, Jamie Foxx, but I forget the name of, but it's same lane. It's by me.
Right, it had that same kind of tone. Actually, I liked it. I remember watching the Jamie Foxx one. It being pretty decent.
Yeah, this is like kids do things. It's a kinder
Attack the Block-ish kind of.
The Block, Summer '84, just much kinder.
Yeah.
And it has a great Shea Wiggum in it, and we all love Shea Wiggum.
Shea Wiggum.
No one cares about Scream 6, but it did put it on.
Ooh, it's a shame that that Wes Craven died and they had to end the Scream franchise forever. It's too bad.
My take on that from 6 is 6 fairly enjoyable, whatever. The Scream 5 came back. Well, I was so COVID blinded because that thing is fucking shit.
I did the same thing. I came out of Scream 5 in the theater like, yeah, man, Scream is back. And then I watched it the first time at home. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I think I did like 2 or 3 times at home. Like, oh shit, this fucking sucks. And then I did 6. Like this 6 was like maybe the second.
6 is an improvement over 5, no doubt.
But,
you can't take that away. But.
Great background noise and whatever. I think we talked about it last week. Anyway, I watched Trap again just because how did this get made?
And I haven't seen Trap yet.
Showed it to Laura. It's not even really a horror movie at all.
I'm excited to check it out. It's not when it needs to.
Yeah, your opinions will be very curious on it because it makes some choices.
I'm not an M Night guy, but I'm always like checking him out. I'm always up for it.
Every M Night movie deserves. Every M Night release to this day deserves a watch. I watched Blink twice. That was very enjoyable.
Zoe I want to check that out too.
I'll say this: it's not doing anything new, but everyone's really good in it, and Zoe Kravitz directs the fuck out of the movie.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to almost check out the Netflix movie, the Anna Kendrick one, more to just see her directorial debut.
I want to watch that too.
The movie, like the subject matter, true crime shit. I'm kind of like lukewarm on these days. It's just it's a little overdone. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I'm always up to see somebody taking the crack at their first directing. Like I like that,
So you've seen the tropes. Blink twice. My thing is, you've seen the tropes before. Everyone's really good in it. Zoe Kravitz. Not surprisingly, but surprisingly, just first time director. First time director, really good. I really and I was talking to somebody because I was like, Channing Tatum's like great in it, but I'm like, you know what? When hasn't he been really enjoyable on screen in the last like 14 years? Rarely.
No, he's good.
So he does a great job.
I'm a fan.
I watched the Speak No Evil remake. That fucking
Have you seen Speak No Evil?
Yes.
Okay. And you liked the remake? You thought the remake was good?
I was surprised. I thought people were blowing smoke when they're like, actually, no, it's a good remake. It had a really bad trailer that showed you a lot of the story of movies, and I think people got sick of it because that played before like every movie for 2 months. Watch Speak No Evil when you have a chance to get it. I got in certain ways. James, like all the acting was very good. It held its tension very well, and that was what did it. But similarities, but some differences from the remake. I like both. Put it that way. It's very let me in, let the right one in situation.
Which is good. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Then, and this is all kind of this is the last few days. I've become a Halloween fucking favorite. I watched Haunt. I've seen just dumb fun. Some of the worst characters stupidest characters ever put on screen. Personally, I think a movie like Haunt should be having the fan base like Terrifier though, of the level of low budgetness to it. Like I'm like this is a better movie.
Yeah, hey, can I interest you in this?
But so that's always fun. But the one I watched last night, and it surprised me, and it's been a poster that's been out there for fucking 12, 14 years. American Mary. Do you remember American Mary?
I don't think so.
It was with Catherine Isabella.
Okay.
It's 2012. So, 12 years ago.
Horror icon, Catherine
Isabella. Starred low budget. And it is about I've always seen the poster. The poster's her in like a tight skin, like leather, like apron, and she has like a hacksaw.
Okay.
So it's always been like, oh, what's that about? And then you move on your day. It's about a girl who I highly recommend. It's about a girl who is a surgical student, like a med student, and she needs to make some money, and she goes into a strip club, and they're like, oh, actually, like you're a doctor, like sew up this person in like the legal underground, and the body modification community gets a hold of her, basically be like, "Hey, I heard you could perform surgeries," and like starts doing the surgeries.
She's like she becomes like a back alley surgeon kind of.
Yes, back alley surgeon, and then like I don't really think it's a spoiler because I do think it's in the description of it. And then it kind of somewhat becomes like a rape revenge movie. That was shocking at 11:30 at night. Be like, oh, so this is where this is going, and like just uncomfortable. Movies on for its low budgetness and all of that stuff, not great in the sense of some things, but Catherine Isabella absolutely. The movie works because she's so fucking good in it, and you're like, wow, I actually wish they made this. Sure. I wish they made this movie with a larger budget and better actors, so she could really like this flex on everyone. But fun time. I watched it on Tubi. The irony of it all, and then I'll throw the mic over to you. Is I finished watching it last night, and I was like, I'll throw an episode of the '90s Goosebumps show. I just put a random episode. Guess who was fucking starring was in the episode that I was watching? Catherine Isabella. Of course. Right after, I was like, "That's weird. I was just watching you like pour blood on almost your naked body."
Not quite though. She's classy. She's too classy.
Oh no, she never gets.
She's not gonna give up the goods like that.
Watch Freddy vs. Jason for that.
Yeah, for her body double in the shower, right?
Is it a body double?
I think so.
Oh damn, rats!
I hate. Sorry, 12-year-old Joe. I didn't mean to ruin that one for you.
Rats. No, but. The funniest part about, but my favorite part about Freddy vs. Jason, I love that movie to bits, is our lead girl, how she's Miss Wholesome and all this, and she's the fakest, biggest boobs for a teenager ever, as if like the quiet pretty girl had big fake boobs in any school in America.
Yeah. Just your average girl next door with double D cans, like.
It's just always like, oh yeah, like you go. It's fun, Final Girl. Anyway, what have you watched? I know I just rambled off a bunch. I said I've been a little heavy.
I mean, obviously, like I said, I won't get into like the Hearsttober stuff. We're doing a horror movie every night. I can list them all day. But in my off time, I have been getting to one of my favorite seasonal things, which is horror anthologies. Fucking Creepshow and Creepshow 2, and then me and my wife were actually rewatching through the VHS series. We went back and started.
I'm so sporadic with them.
Right. Well, they just released a new one, VHS Beyond. They're on. They moved to Shudder. The last 4, there's 7 now, which is a lot.
7.
There's 7.
I've done like 1, 2 of the ones on Shudder,
1, 2, and then the third one's called VHS Viral.
Yeah.
And then then they do in like 94, 99, 85, and then the new one is Beyond. So we got through like the first 3 or 4, like over a period of a couple nights. We just kind of like started burning through them. And I'll tell you what, they actually got better when they moved to Shudder. I know like they have some of the more prestigious early filmmakers in the early ones. You got Simon Barrett and Adam Wingard, and you got Ty West and stuff.
Yeah, they really.
The Radio Silence guys do stuff in the first one.
Radio Silence guys were the haunted house one with the arms, right?
I think so, yeah. Which is good, but a lot of them are like a little overly broy, and they feel like they have a quota. They're like trying to force nudity into every segment, and it's like,
well, that's that.
It's just the era, right? It's just the era and stuff. But I was like, a lot of these I feel a little. They're just like a little bit much. They're good. Like some of the ideas are fun in them, but they were a little like I was like, oh, some of these didn't age as well as others. But I do love some of the ideas in them, and I definitely like I said, I think they've actually gotten better when they moved to Shudder, and I think some of the stuff in those ones is really good. So
I gotta check that out. I've always down to hit. I always hit play on the dog shit like Tubi or like free anthologies, or it's like, what's this?
Yeah,
it'd be like. Actually, that was a good one I was going to say, but like 13 or 31 was one or something I remember watching last year.
Oh, yeah.
Unwatchable. I watched one today. I actually got halfway through.
We started one a while, like last year it was one of those, and it was for around Christmas. It was like called the Advent Calendar or something.
Yeah,
Unwatchable.
I
Terrible.
watch. I will hit play on almost all of them, just sort of like because they're all trying to like. There was a time where they were all trying to replicate Trick or Treat, and it just does not.
Yeah.
Or I watched
But the
one today.
VHSs are legitimately pretty
Oh,
good, and
those are
they're
good.
decent
Those are good.
found footage movies. And
I watched one today after Oddity, or I half of one. It was called XX,
okay,
and it was like its gimmick is all female filmmakers made them.
yeah, I want to say I don't know if I've seen that
It
one, or I
ain't
definitely
good.
have seen the. I've definitely like stopped on it and looked at it and been like, oh, okay, this
That's
is
why it
like
was like
clocked it before. I don't
I'm
know if
like
we've watched it though.
I watched 3.5, 2.5 of the 4 segments before I just said, "Dad." The first story was so boring. The second one
Yeah,
had Melanie Linsky in it. I was like, oh, okay.
okay.
And I did look it up. Like some of the women who were directors of that little short actually like did full blown career
Yeah, have done like
like
more
like
have done good stuff.
yeah. Anyway, that's not. It's your time to talk. But like I should be hitting. What I'm saying is I should be hitting on playing good horror anthology movies,
Yeah.
not You know what one always rips? Tales from Halloween.
Oh yeah.
That one always rips. That one that tricks you into thinking it's Trick or Treat.
Yeah, is that one? Is that
Yeah, Tails as the tree.
yeah?
That's actually a solid like low budgety. Anyway,
I think I might be confusing that with wasn't there like a holiday version that wasn't all Halloween? It was like maybe a couple different holidays, and
I
Kevin
believe
Smith might have done a segment for
I,
it.
ABC's of Death.
Nah, maybe I don't remember.
Holiday
Anyway, we're getting off topic. The point is, I was
holidays.
watching good anthologies. The VHSs are quite good, and like the thing about a great horror anthology is like they might not all be bangers, but you're probably going to get at least one segment that's pretty solid.
Yeah,
Like there's always
uh,
one that's built. Like Creepshow 2 is the weaker Creepshow movie, but The Raft is the best of all the Creepshow segments. So how do you balance that?
I was just talking to someone about that, or saw someone bring that up. They're like, "Oh shit, you gotta watch The Wrath, like
Oh,
Creepshow too."
I love like the Creepshow movie. Like those are my go-tos. Recently, I did pick up a Shout Factory 2 pack of um, Tales from the Crypt, the movie from the '70s. It's like a
Yep.
British produced movie, and also Vault of Horror, and they have that same similar vibe. It's like an anthology of kind of Tales from the Crypty style.
It's like you know, like a underrated one. It's fine. It's like the like body bags.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted to like Body Bags more because of
John
John
Carpenter.
Carpenter. You're like, oh, John Carpenter is the horror host. That's incredible. And then the segments were all just kind of okay. I was kind of bummed out, you know?
I just remember them not going, and especially that first segment with like, was that Mark Hamill, if I'm not mistaken, in the first segment, or
I think
someone
so, yeah.
the
I'd have
gas
to, like I
station,
said, I haven't seen it
the
in a
gas
while.
station killer. Anyway,
Mhm.
once again, getting off topic. Any other movies you want to rip before we hit on to Oddity?
No, no, I
Sure.
think actually going from talking about Tales from the Crypt to talking about Oddity is like a perfect segue.
Oddity is a fucking Tales from the Crypt story.
It's like a super Tales from the Crypt.
It's great. I
You were
so
a big
set
fan
up.
of Caveat, which is this
I
director's
was a big
first movie,
fan. I was a
right?
big fan of Caveat. Before you joined the show, we interviewed a guest. I'm blanking on her name. I'm so
Was it
sorry.
Video Drew?
It
Was
was
on that
video. It
episode?
was Video Drew.
Look at
She
that. I
sta-
know the show better. I
yeah.
wasn't even on the episode.
Video Drew. It was
Couldn't
she
be
was
bothered to have me come on and talk
uh
about Caveat,
she
a
oh
movie I slept through until I watched it a second time after watching
she
Oddity.
picked it. She picked it. I remember her saying she's like I've rewatched this a million times. I watch blah blah blah. I connected with her and I watched it I think twice at the time. That was still when I was early in the show. I was like, I'm gonna buy every movie we talk about, and so I own Caveat. Probably like the only person in the world who has the Blu-ray of that.
Found it, dug up a Blu-ray of Caveat.
But no, that was great. I remember it being such a gem. And you watch that episode and see me get scared the hell out. She jump scares me in it.
Yeah, she had
Uh,
like a screen or something
did
behind
a
her, right?
screen of that face, and she
Yeah.
turned the way like the green screen kind of works. And I literally wasn't paying attention, so oh fuck. Um, but
That's good horror content, folks.
it's
That's
good
how you
work.
do it.
So Damien McCarthy, they're two Irish films.
So
Um,
Irish. The
uh,
Irishest.
I think it shares a lot of DNA with this. I think they exist in the same world because we do have
We get a little cameo from
the
a
little rabbit,
Caveat-esque bunny.
and then I guess some background work on or background work, doing a little research of it, is the the guy with the one eye, Olin, God, what's
Hmm.
whatever. That is from Olin Boole is from Damian McCarthy's first like horror short, which I actually think is like a stop motion or animation, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, cool.
And it's literally like how Olin Boole lost his eye. Like you
Oh,
could
that's
watch like
fun.
short of that.
Oh, that's fun.
So like this movie, this guy is using webs of other things.
Yeah, he's got his little head
Mm,
cannon. He's like,
yeah.
feeding in little threads. That's
Well,
fun. I like it.
this movie, like, I feel like came out of nowhere, and it's still not talked about enough. This was when people
I've been
like
saying this is a great year for horror. You've heard me say it.
integrate.
This is
Well,
probably my favorite horror movie of the year.
it's might sneak right
I'll
there.
I'll get right out in front of this one.
It might sneak right up there for me. I just saw it today, so I need to. I'm glad to talk about it. So I think
Oh,
I'm gonna.
absolutely.
But so I remember when Long Legs was coming out, like last month or
Mhm.
2 months ago or whatever, and that was it was like, I was like, oh my god, Long Legs. That was all marketing. It's a good movie,
Yeah, it's a good movie and it was well marketed. You can't take that away
and
from him.
I remember every horror person in the know virtually would go, Long Legs is great. Oddity is actually the best and scariest horror movie of the year, and I have to agree because this did have some good scares.
It has some very
It's
good
creepy.
scares in it,
It's
actually.
creepy. All right, so I'll tee it up. So basically, the movie starts off, and this woman, and they move into this like beautiful like stone cobble house. Like she's getting together. Everything in Ireland looks so
Also, having seen the whole movie now, it's important to note that almost the very first shot of the movie is her putting in the trap door and like setting it in place. The
yeah.
that's like the first shot of the movie. I
What?
noticed that. It's one of those things you don't pick up till the second
Yeah,
time
I
you
didn't. I
watch it
wouldn't have think
because
it
you
would have
wouldn't
been.
have thought of it, but
And why the
thought to
fuck
notice it.
do they have a trap door? That's the biggest question.
Well, yeah, well, because this was like it's like a stable. It's a castle, but it's like they're only living in the basically the front of it, and then it has like buildings that go out the side, but they don't seem to be using those very much. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like
it's
it's
a head
mostly they're
scratch.
in like the front area of it that they've refinished.
It's
It's awesome. It's a place I would 100% live. It's
I
a
wouldn't.
place that you could see someone committing several murders to hold on to.
And it's also my question: Is everything in fucking Ireland anywhere ever see modern? You go, oh shit, there's cell phones in this movie. I thought it was. I thought they were filming this in 1940.
Yeah.
Every Ireland movie is like that, where it's like, I guess they didn't get sheetrock.
Yeah, it's
Sheetrock
like
hasn't been invented.
until you see somebody pull out a cell phone, it could be the Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah,
Like it all looks the same.
yeah. The worst offender of it is there's this terrible. Watch for how it's made. There's this terrible movie called Mountain Wild Mountain Time. It's with the dude from 50 Shades of Grey and Emily Blunt doing just terrible Irish accents. I think Willem Dafoe is in it briefly, or Christopher Walken, one of them. Anyway, the more long story short, he believes he's a bee. It's a weird ass movie, but you think watching it, you're like, oh, this must be a love story from 1940s. Nah, it's like modern day. They have fucking cell phones, but they all dress and talk like the time. That's what this movie had going on, and that's not an insult to this movie.
No.
That other movie is dog shit. Uh, but so anyway, she's that's a good observation of the she putting in the trap door. She's getting this place ready. She's talking to her husband, who like we immediately works at a mental institution. He's a doctor. Alludes to, um, and I think the movie is filmed like made really well, but its initial edit was confusing. I actually went back and made sure I didn't miss something.
Mhm.
Was so this crazy person comes to her door in the middle of the night and is like,
She's looking for her cell phone.
yeah,
She can't find her cell phone, so she runs out to her car. She goes back into the house, and then there's a knock at the door, and there's like a weird guy, and he's warning her that while she was out at her car, he saw somebody go into her house.
such an intense scene too. Like,
And he's got the urban legend problem where he's too he's trying to help, but he's too creepy, and he
go
can't be
backseat,
trusted.
go
Yeah.
backseat, and If it's true, like he's like, and you're like, I'm watching this. I'm like, bitch, don't open the door,
And they leave it ambiguous at this scene. They leave it.
and it
She
works.
she is kind of. It looks like she might, but then they cut away,
Because
and
he's
we
just
cut to
like,
about a year later.
yeah, that's where I was like, they don't. The jump of a year later is very like what happened, and then through the immediate dialogue, she was murdered.
I did want. We should note real quick that when we see the woman in her at her house,
The
she has
camera,
a camera. Got a camera set up, and she has it like just taking pictures, kind of like on a
every like 4 seconds, I'd say, or
yeah, it's like
so.
on a timer, and it's just taking pictures. And she also calls her sister and leaves a message for her sister, and she says, "We are connected," which is like a kind of a running, like a through line through this movie. That
She's
kind
her
of idea. It has
she's a twin.
multiple meanings in this movie.
Yes, and she's a twin. Um, and they even talk about it right beforehand, like, oh, we should invite my sister to dinner, like with her husband, and
Yeah.
they kind of allude to like you don't know yet, but like they allude to like, oh, like she has some problems. We should either take care of her and
Yeah,
this
she's like,
and that.
we should have dinner with Darcy and keep an eye on her, make sure she's taking care of herself. We don't know at this point. She might have some, but they definitely, the sister's obviously concerned about her.
Yes. So then we
It's
later learn
Danny and Darcy are the two.
Danny and Darcy,
Danny is the wife who gets murdered. Darcy is the sister,
and they're the same woman playing them, and they
played
do
by one actress.
yeah, they do an excellent job, in my opinion, of differentiating the looks of the actor, like
Oh,
her. So yeah,
the
I was like,
looks
oh,
and the performances. Darcy, the way she plays Darcy is very unsettling. There are some scares in this movie that are just based on her performance. Like,
why'd you open the box?
yeah,
Or put that back in the head
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. I have thoughts on that. I have that. I have fucking thoughts on that. So anyway, so we get there, and we learn that she'd been murdered, and the piece of shit husband shows up to Darcy runs a
Well, yeah,
uh
we have to mention that the guy, the one-eyed
oh,
guy,
that's to come after but yeah, the one eye guy's dead.
gets brutally murdered in a very
Yes.
gruesome fashion, off camera, but we do see the aftermath of
In
basically he gets splatter killed.
in the insane asylum.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then something I didn't pick up till this watch is the guy who finds his body and finds the eye.
I picked that up.
He keeps it, and then it's not till he dies
Oh, I didn't pick
that
that up. Sorry, I
yeah,
didn't pick that
it's
up.
when the husband comes to Darcy's shop, he's like, so and so died. He was roommates with Olin Boole, and then he had the eye, and that's where
Yes.
so he's like, so he found it, and he's like, I knew, and that's why he's like, I knew you wanted it. But we should
Mhm.
talk a little bit about Darcy and her shop.
Yeah,
Before
no,
we
but
get onto that.
that's a good point because that leads right into it. So Darcy, so what's this piece? I literally wrote in my notes, just called him a piece of shit the whole time. Ted.
Okay, I was gonna ask you because I didn't, I would say the one thing that this movie is incredibly well made and incredibly scary, but it's not surprising. I don't think they're ever
No.
trying to fool you
Well,
at
I
any
think
moment. The
the
minute, like the very first, when she has the phone call where she's in the at the house getting it ready and he's at the office, I immediately knew he was a huge. I was like, oh, this guy's whatever is about. Like nothing had even happened yet, and I was like, well, this is a horror movie and something's gonna happen, and he's gonna have something to do with it. He's a piece of shit.
I'm like, he's a piece of shit. Thought he had to do with it. Not a full reveal. I'll do this. I was like naive enough,
Yeah.
but the minute it wasn't that for me, it was what's about to come of like, yeah, still living in the house.
Oh, when the reveal that he's already got it shacked up with a new girl.
Yeah. Oh, like, oh yeah, you're there. So he
It's like
shows.
less than a year, and your wife didn't just like die; she was brutally murdered.
She shows up to. Yeah. If you're at anyone anywhere wherever we live, doesn't matter the price of the house, someone you love is not just dies, brutally murdered, you'd be like, yeah, so we're not living, I'm not living there anymore, life's pretty bad. So he goes to like an antique shop
Yeah,
that
Darcy runs a
an
shop, an oddities shop
yeah,
that her mother left her,
yes,
or their mother left
and
her.
Darcy is a clairvoyant. She
Yeah, she's
has
a medium.
she has the power to touch an object and kind of see the life of said object. So Ted brings her the glass eye, and he's like, "Here, I thought you might like this. It's from Oil
Well,
and
she
Gold."
specifically asked him to bring it. She was like, "I want that eye. Give me that eye."
Yeah, but it helps her see the picture of what actually fucking happened to her
Right.
sister. And, there's some back and forth, and we kind of mentioned Ted reveals, like, oh, by the way, Darcy is, like, thrilled to see her. I actually thought maybe they had it. My first thought was, like, did they have something going on?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because,
It's like Darcy's really happy to see Ted.
and there's this very loving, embracing hug.
Yeah.
And
There's a
then
little banter between, you can tell he's a cynic, and like there's a little back and forth because she does the whole, we get the introduction
bell.
of the little hotel bell, and it
Great.
kind of like talk, it serves a dual purpose. It introduces that element, which will come back, but it also like helps you with their dynamic. There's kind of obviously she's a believer, he's a skeptic, and Danny was probably somewhere in the middle where
Danny was a believer.
they were raised by their mother, and there's obviously that element was in their lives, but Danny seems to be more like, a little, although it is revealed in the message that you hear. Darcy listens to the message from Danny later that she's saved, that they were kind of thinking the place that might be haunted, and that's why they had set up the camera.
No, Darcy was a full-blown. Danny and Darcy are full-blown believers. Like, that I think was established, and her husband. It's just one of those, like, how'd you fall in love with that man?
Yeah. But I do agree that like they do a good job of making it seem like there's no animosity between Darcy and Ted yet. Like, it's not until, first of all, the reveal that he's moving in with that girl in that house that puts her on edge, and then we see her go home and actually take off her gloves and actually handle the eye and read the actual eye.
Her face changes immediately when it's like, who's that, or whatever. And it's like, oh, she comforted me after her death, and she worked at the hospital, and blah blah blah, and this, and
she's immediately keyed into that. She's like, oh, I'm like immediately suspicious.
And the one thing he does is just goes, oh, like, he's like, and her anniversary of her death's coming up, and he's like, we should get dinner sometime. Me and Yara would love to take you out.
Yeah.
Yana.
Yana.
I kept saying Yara. Yana would love to take you out. Blah blah blah. She's like, nah, what? No, I'm good. And then, like, obviously shows up. We go to she goes to the house, like you said, reads the eye, does this, and she shifts a box to.
Yeah, we see her after she reads the eye. She is clearly upset, and she goes back to the shop and kind of like goes to this wooden trunk and like kind of like sits by this wooden trunk, and that's when we have the little the caveat bunny give a little clink. Doesn't have the drum; he's got cymbals now. But
it's a great nod to, like, because it's all like, my note is, wow, what a better little, like, area than the stupid fucking Warren haunted items.
Yeah, her setup is cool as hell.
Darcy's just like,
Darcy's just got more style,
She has style, and she goes, same thing with the bell. She goes, don't steal that. Everything in here is haunted, cursed. It's always returned, and we learn that is a truth of this world. But so that's her wall. I think of the most haunted stuff. But
she keeps that's like the back room, She doesn't have that out on display in the front of the store.
Yeah, fuck the Warrens. Me and all my homies hate the Warrens.
Me and all my homies hate the Warrens. I'm sorry if you believe the Warrens, you're a rube.
Yeah, fucking weirdos. Not for the reason you think that I'm saying weirdos. It's
the sex. It's the three-way sex stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm so non-sex positive. Gross.
I'm a real prude, you guys.
Yeah, guys. If whatever. Ed Warren having like an 18-year-old traveling along nanny that they don't bring a kid along with. Anyway. But yeah, so they're back at the house, and the new girlfriend, Yana, who, like, at first I will say is just, I think the most realistic and reasonable how like a new person would be reacting to any of this information. I was just guys like she's like, I don't know, there's this weird box that was sent.
I gotta grab some. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah. Brian's grabbing something.
Sorry about that.
Good. No, yeah. So the Yara, like when we're introduced to the Yara, Yana, Yara. You know why? Because they had that accent, and I wrote Yara.
We don't respect women, so we don't learn their names.
It's Yana. Yana at first, though, truly, I was like, all right, you're as just like this girlfriend of this guy. I get your opinion of this, like not staying, and her being like, yeah, I don't want to stay in your house with the that your ex-wife died in.
Well, we also find out she's already been having like weird situations.
Yeah, well, she shows the camera.
She can't sleep. She finds the camera and she takes pictures with it where she can see Danny in the pictures.
Yeah.
She says she saw Danny in the hallway, like literally saw her standing there.
Danny's haunting the house.
Yeah, yeah. And now we know Ted isn't really keyed in. He probably wouldn't even be able to see it even if she tried.
Yeah, and another big red flag, Ted should be, hey, give me that camera. I don't want you looking at my dead wife. Like that's my dead wife's camera.
Well, he's like, nah, you can just delete it. Like he is so callous about what's on the. Yeah. It's actually Yana who's like, I don't mind. You don't have to delete it. But like she thinks he's doing it for her benefit.
Yeah.
But like the vibe is more like, I don't give a fuck about what's on that camera.
Weird situation there. Regardless, I was like, oh, that's an odd like that camera. Like to me, it was like, oh, that's a personal item of hers. That's hers. But so she has that. But yeah, then you know, he's like, oh, I'm going to the hospital, and you know, she's like, well, I'm going to the city to sleep at my apartment. Fuck this place.
Yeah.
And what shows up? Darcy.
Well, what shows up before Darcy?
Oh, wait, I said that. The box
is the trunk. Okay, I was gonna say I didn't know if you mentioned the trunk.
Yeah,
okay,
the trunk. The trunk shows up.
The trunk's just there.
And Darcy, you know,
shows up and does that thing where she's like, "Well, we made plans. You said," which obviously
they
didn't make plans.
No,
he kind of gives her the brush off. But Darcy's superpower, which I love, is she gets to her obliviousness. Like she's obviously knows what she's doing. She's not really oblivious, but she uses her blindness to like ignore social cues and like just breeze over that sort of shit. It's really funny. She does it a bunch of times. I love when Yana's about to leave and she's like, "Could you make me something to eat?"
It's so good. It's so good.
So good.
And that's why I say, like, at first I'm on Yana's side of like, yeah, the fridge is in there. No, I'm not going to stay. Like I was like from a human standpoint, like I am on board with this woman's decisions.
Oh yeah, like a weird like. My boyfriend's dead wife's weirdo sister just showed up here and is like,
let's hang out.
Very demanding and also creepy.
Darcy also, you said it's just her to do that. Her other thing is she has authoritative little woman energy where like it's like, oh no, whatever this woman says, I'm gonna end up listening to. Like it's always a short woman who's very just like, you're gonna do this, and you want to be like, no, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna. Sorry, yeah, she does absolutely. Well, and again, she has that thing too of like, how do you say no to a disabled person who's like standing? It's so hard to be like, you're fine on your own, blind lady. Take care. You're in a place you've not been before. Like it's fine.
Yeah, she
knows but the point is Darcy knows what she's doing. She's playing the situation. She's very smart and very very crafty.
Yeah, it's such a good thing. But she gets so Ted does leave, and Yana can't find her keys. Right, they're now missing. So she's like, well, guess I got to stay. Which, for the record, I would have. It's called an Uber.
Yeah, well, we get around to that later, and just as she floats that idea, she breaks her phone. So, you know, it's like kind of classic horror movie stuff, you know.
Early on, I would have been like, that's
great.
Oh,
yeah, I wouldn't have waited around.
It's so funny. This is a classic horror movie house, too, in the sense of televisions don't exist.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what are they doing? Like, they're just hanging out in silence.
Yeah, even we even see the bedroom doesn't have a TV in it.
Oh,
Nothing.
TV! It's a horror movie trope of like TV don't exist. I remember growing up in that. Was it Catherine Isabella? Actually, weirdly, no, it wasn't. It was Leela Sobieski or whatever.
Oh
Um,
yeah, the
the
glass
Glass
house.
House. And I
Yeah,
remember it was like, oh, she's babysitting. No TVs.
yeah.
Oh no, sorry, it wasn't in Glass House. I'm thinking of a different movie. It was the When a Stranger Calls remake,
Oh,
which
okay.
had a similar looking like house, I think, in
Yeah,
that
like
movie.
an open floor, big windows and
I
stuff. That was
remember
something
thinking,
like horror movies were doing for a while. The 13 Ghosts house was like
yeah, I
that.
remember
Shit.
thinking, why the fuck? Like, why isn't this woman put on a nice rom com while she like watches like around? She's just reading a book. So that's kind of what goes on in this home. But they just kind of sit there. They
Well, we
eat.
get a really, we get a really great tense like conversation.
Yeah,
Yana and
you,
Darcy have a really great scene here.
Darcy just going, oh, so you were a patient?
Yeah, it's so good. The little like digs. Um, I love. There's a great storytelling element here too, where they use that they do a flashback and then they cut back and you realize like what you were seeing is what Darcy's been saying. I love when a movie does that. That's a great
I think
a great little storytelling beat that they use here.
it it reveals the reality of what, or partial reality of what happened, at least to Danny,
Yeah.
really well. I think at the right story time of the movie, right? She tells it and takes that break, and I generally screamed of the one jump scare in the
That
flight.
is one of the best jump scares I've seen in a very
I
long
would have
time.
said someone was in his
It's
clothes. They
perfectly timed, and they have you focused on the on just, and then like he comes in the foreground, and it is just like, yeah, it's one of, like I said, this movie has some legitimate
so
scares,
she,
and it's fun. I'm excited to get to the end because I have some things I want to say about that
yeah,
too. Like,
so
um,
she
no,
but she tells Yana, um, she tells her like the whole story. She's like, "Oh, do you want to know how my sister really died?"
well, she starts
It,
off by telling her she's psychic, like by like explaining her
yeah,
powers
I
to
could
her and
touch
explaining what she
things,
can
and
do, and
she explains the wooden man, which we really haven't mentioned. There's this doll. We haven't mentioned the
yeah,
movie's
in the trunk, there's a wooden man, which you find out was a gift that her mother got from a
from a
witch.
witch, and it's a
Yeah.
rare special item. That's why I'm like, oh no, Darcy and Danny are full believers. Like they were raised clearly by this mother who was also some sort of medium or quirky,
Yeah,
and
well, it was her. It was like her oddity shop before it went to
yeah,
Darcy, so she was
and
clearly already in this
she
world.
she's basically gifted a golem from
Yeah,
like from the Jewish folklore.
like they open the box and you don't see it.
No, they hide it for a
They
minute.
hide it from you for a little bit, and then you actually see Ted go back and he starts looking through the drawings of the guy who found Olin dead, who like had the eye, and realizes that, like, because he's seen the face, we haven't,
Yeah.
but he has, and he's going through the pictures and realizes that the guy was drawing him,
Yeah,
was drawing the wooden man. And then we see when we cut back, like when Darcy and Yana are having their conversation, the wooden man is out of the box. He and they have that great moment where she's like, why'd you get him? Yana's like, why'd you get him out? And Darcy says, I didn't. Like, it's
I
just like
didn't.
and
And
we don't even know. I like too that it's never explained how articulated the wooden man is supposed to be,
no, he has like a head and arm, but
but you
like you
can't
don't.
tell if his like shoulder joints and elbow joints, like he always looks kind of static when he's sitting wherever he's
No,
sitting. He always looks like one piece, kind of.
yeah. According to
Great
the
look on the wooden man too. Amazing look.
big fan. Well, according to with his look and everything, according to McCarthy, he uses Child's Playing Creepshow as his influence, and this is just from the
I
Wikipedia.
mean, I didn't want to say I had just watched Old Chief Woodenhead before I rewatched Oddity, but like, yeah, there's definitely that vibe here.
And his thing was, he says a big fan of dolls come to life, but they're always small, and he's like, wouldn't it be cool to just have one that's like your size? Like, what a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So, but that's a big part, which, like I said, I kind of failed to bring up in telling this. So that doll is sitting with them while they're sitting at the table
And
talking.
it's a
And
great, like the doll is a amazing, like ticking clock. It's
And
like
that's
was it Chekhov's wooden man?
yeah.
Like we know something. Well, and we didn't see it all happened off screen, but we know somebody got brutally murdered and by something.
It wasn't.
You know.
Yeah. So yeah, because the head splatter is not of norm. But what I hate to keep focusing on Yana here, but like she I know I'm probably even myself, but like I know my wife, I imagine yours or others. The minute that doll's out with this weird lady, be like, I'm not even saying goodbye. I'm going to the front of the road and calling an Uber if I can't get out, because it's just like
I'm getting away from whatever that thing
it's
is.
a weird situation.
Yeah.
To be like, well, I'll just stay and play house.
But I think it plays into. It's funny you were talking about the speak no evil thing. It plays into the kind of like politeness
Well, yeah.
and the kind of like again like Darcy has this way of like kind of like making you feel almost guilty for for leaving her. She's kind of playing on your sympathies a little bit in some ways.
So anyway, she's explaining to her everything that had happened, and when we finally see the reveal of that night, right? She does not
what she learned from Olin's eye, basically.
Yeah, she does not open the door. Danny does not open the door for Olin. But Olin's like, you know what? I'm gonna go to town and I'm gonna get help, and hopefully you'll be okay. Like he's just seemingly a nice man who's respecting her wishes at this point, even though So she goes in this tent that she's sleeping in because she likes the house is not ready yet, and she likes to sleep.
No
in this
heat
tent.
in the house or anything. They're like staying in the tent.
But she closed the thing up, and then, like you said, this great jump scare, this Halloween.
Well, she looks at the camera first. She remembers the camera,
and there's a guy
and she sees the camera, and then she sees the person come in while she's outside, and that's a good jump scare in and of itself, actually.
Yeah.
And then she gets in the tent,
a white mask with these,
and we have the guy with a black slicker and a white mask, just like kind of nondescript, but an incredible jump scare, and then, again, no real on-camera brutality. All implied.
You see a shot, and then it's just blood in the tent.
Yeah, but still equally horrific. The blood on the inside of the tent, the hand swipes on the like the implied. It's just as scary and horrific to me. Like I didn't need to see her head caved in with a hammer. Like,
and we don't. We mean it in a sense you don't really see it. It's not a Terrifier situation.
Another thing she relays to Yana, more information that she got from Olin's eye is who she thinks did do the murder, which is this creepy orderly Ivan who has resting villain face.
Oh my God, guy!
He looks like he's Irish Bill Sadler. He's got like the cheekbones that can cut glass.
I knew you were gonna know who I was thinking. You look like. I'm like, this man looks like this guy who's a villain and everything.
Yeah.
Yes, you knew. Yeah, so he looks like Bill Sadler, and simultaneously we do go to Ted's, and Ted is chatting with the guy, and they're friendly.
We see a conversation between him and Olin.
They're playing chess together,
and between Olin and Ivan, and then we cut to Ted talking to Ivan, and you can kind of tell he's uncomfortable with how chummy Ivan's being. Like,
it's Shooter McGavin and the guy he hires to do the, mess up Happy Gilmore. Is the guy you like Red Lobster?
Yeah.
Wow, I love Red Lobster.
He's like basically inviting a doctor to go like vandalize the like boys' home he was raised in or some shit. Like
he's like, because Ted's also a pompous piece of shit. He's like, nah, I'm good. We're not friends.
It's clearly a thing where like, oh damn, now I'm tied to this guy and I have to pretend to like him because I had him do a crime for me.
Yeah. Like. So we learn all of that, and then Yara. Why can't I get Yana?
Why can't you get those ends, man? Yana.
Because I wrote Yara throughout all these notes.
Well, that's fair.
But Yana is like, okay, and then like
excuse me.
She's kind of a bitch to Darcy. She's like, well, I'm gonna go to bed. and she just shuts all the lights off around her, which I get. She's blind, but like still,
I had a question here. This is just like totally off topic. I was like, oh, I never really thought about it. Do you think blind people turn on lights when they're by themselves? Do they bother? Like, I guess
probably
not.
but
Like,
it's
would
probably like
you?
but probably there's I feel like there's like just habitry or like maybe it's
Well,
like
we also don't know if Darcy was born blind. We know she had a brain tumor. We don't know, did that cause her blindness? It's implied that her brain tumor may have something to do with her abilities also.
yeah.
And
There's a
that
lot of
the reason,
implication.
because there's like, this is all a little speculative on my part, but having seen it twice now, there's a couple lines of dialogue where where Danny is talking about her not taking her medicine, and when Ted asks Darcy about going to the doctor, she's kind of evasive, and I think you're supposed to maybe think there's an element here where she is not treating her illness because whatever tumor or whatever thing she has enhances her abilities, and she needs her abilities to finish this job to like deal with this
yeah,
situation.
it suppresses her.
Right. I think, like I said, everything is like it's all kind of left for you to
You
kind of
don't need
infer. There's
a
nothing like there's no expository dialogue explaining any of this or anything. It's just
yeah
something that I like was picking up. I'm trying to piece together.
yeah. It's a good question. I don't know. I yeah. I took it as like also wasn't really a brain tumor in the sense there. It is there like it's more of her. It's
Right.
her.
Is it a thing where it wasn't even really ever an illness?
It's
It's
her
but
gift,
like it's
but to
her
modern
abilities
medicine,
kind of,
it
yeah.
seems that way. But yeah, Dart. Uh, Yana's like, all right. She goes to bed, and she looks at the
Well, she
photos, and
tries to call. Remember, she calls
but she drops her
Ted
phone.
first,
She
and
calls
she basically
Ivan.
lets Ted know what's been going on, and is like, "Hey, Darcy's here saying that Ivan guy you work with is who killed her. Like that it
Yeah,
was."
and
eh,
remember, Darcy knows Ivan because she was a
Yeah,
rep at the hospital.
yeah, and she was so like she got me all freaked out, and she's like, I was thinking about calling an Uber, and that's when she drops her phone. She gets
Yeah,
again another very good jump scare with the
false.
wooden man where he's looking straight up at her and spooks her and she
Well, and
drops the
that's the
phone.
first big time you see him move too,
Yeah,
like really move,
we don't see him move, but he's like
moved.
quick. He has
Yeah,
moved in a quick succession.
not
Yeah,
just sitting like body part. But no,
yeah.
do we get to? I do think I'm jumping around here because this is pre bed. Um, this is where I'm like, oh, this is just dumb. This is dumb horror movie character.
Yeah,
Ya-
it's right. It's right. She gets spooked by the
Ya-
wooden man. She drops
Yana,
her phone.
yeah,
When
and
she
then
goes down to get her phone, when she picks it up, it's right by the wooden man, and she
yeah,
notices in the back of the wooden man's head
it's a
has
bowling ball.
5 holes. He looks like
It's a bowling ball.
an
It's a
extra
bowling
bowling
ball.
ball. And I don't know if you notice, it's pretty subtle in the wood, but there's like a symbol in between all
Yeah,
this.
I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of it's carved
It's
in, but a little worn off. It's
it's
not
a
like
little witch.
super out of the. It
It's
looks
a
like
little
something that was on the floor in Hereditary. You
yeah,
know.
it's a little witch like. It's a little there's clearly something there, but she goes to get a surgical surgical
Tweezers, like
tweezers
yeah,
because
like.
we all have those in the house.
Well, now Ted's a doctor and she's a medical rep.
Oh, I know.
So
I'm being facetious.
come on, I'm
Uh,
giving him the benefit of the doubt
I'm
on
giving the
this one.
benefit. But she pulls the because you know what? I'd have the little ones we use for our eyebrows, and it would
I
drop
wouldn't even
right.
be able to get down in
It
those
would
holes.
drop right in.
Drop in there.
Oh
I'd lose the
fuck!
tweezers in the hole, and then the woodman
But
would be all mad.
Danny's like in the far away, like just like vibing, just sitting in
Well, she's like
silence.
asleep sitting up. Like Yana's
Yeah,
like she's like we were having a conversation and she fell asleep.
yeah,
Like
and
which I don't know, I guess could happen if you were blind. Like if you're in darkness all the time, you might just get tired and doze off, right? Like
maybe
I don't know.
but
I don't know how being blind works.
she pulls out hair, which looks like Darcy's hair. It's
Yeah, it looks like
white,
Darcy's hair.
and then she pulls out. They're essentially two. They're rolled up like scrolls. I wrote scrolls, but they're photos of her and her sister as children.
Yeah.
Uh, and then she pulls out a full ripped out tooth. And that should stop you right there, but
Yeah,
she
I mean,
keeps
definitely like that. Honestly, the hair might have
the
stopped me,
first
and that's
thing,
the first thing she
the
pulls
first
out.
thing I would go, you know what? Not for me.
You know what? I probably shouldn't reach into this thing's brain area.
No. This thing that I just saw move its position
Yeah, it just was looking at me a minute ago and freaked me
and
out.
and the thing with this is there's nothing in this movie though that alludes, even though it is supernatural, that alludes to like it's like bringing her in to make her do these things, right?
Yeah.
Like not like a vampire trance or anything.
No, it's just kind of her general
Yeah.
curiosity. She's
So,
just
and then
kind
the
of like,
last thing she pulls out is a straight up vial of blood. And she, by the way, she is very. I thought she was going to drop the blood out of
I
it.
was shocked. Even watching the second time, I thought she was going to drop the blood.
Because it's like, it would be such a good, like, what do you mean? You know, then
Yeah.
then the normal movie would be like, Darcy would be like, she's like, put it back, because that's a scary scene. She's like, put it back.
Yeah, we immediately, like, Darcy's been sitting there asleep, with her back to, and then like we cut, and Darcy's standing, and like a voice that doesn't sound like it could come out of a woman that size.
Yeah.
She does like, put it back.
But like, I don't think she's asleep. I think she was watching her fumble that whole thing, and then it was like, all right, now you've gone too far.
I think she was linked into the wooden man while he's, you know what I mean? I feel like she might have been like practicing tuning him in while that's all happening, you know?
So she does, okay. And then this is when she's like, I'm going to bed.
She's like, I'm going to bed. She puts the stuff back. She's like, I'm fucking out of here.
Yeah. And
one thing that threw me off is that Yana's night clothes are almost exactly like the outfit she was wearing before. It's like a blue top and like gray slacks. And then she changes into night clothes, which are like a blue sweater and gray stretch pants. And I was like, I was like, is she going to bed? Is she just going to go to bed in her work clothes?
Well, time for bed.
Just like she just lays down, just like goes in and lays down in her work clothes.
I love my boyfriend's place. But she crawls into bed and she starts looking at the camera again and watches just videos of her, from actually when they moved in, of Ted and Danny and
staying in the tent, like when they first got the house.
Staying in the tent, and at first, then she goes back, and then there's like creepy dead Danny, like ghoul on the camera. Video, and then she's actually at the side of her bed. And the thing just says run.
I get chills thinking about that run. When the way she says run, the way it's like you're used to seeing the ghost that just is kind of silently there, and that's a good spook. But like when she speaks, it sends chills down my spine. Like this movie is so good.
It reminds
scares, like it really hits.
Compliment. It reminds me a lot of like those scares and done in the way of like Hill House. The way, but you're right, it hits. And like her saying run, I'm like, oh, like Darcy is almost there to like murder this girl regardless. Danny is helping, like saving her life.
Yeah, Danny literally chases the girl out of the house to the point where the girl runs. Well, first of all, she finds her keys in the trunk.
In the box.
They're in the trunk. And then she runs out, and she almost thinks about doubling back, and then Danny's face appears in the darkening doorway. That is such a it's so spooky.
And her face in that doorway is like like a haunted mansion style, like ghosting now. Yeah, and it's so spooky. But she drives away, and like we get a nice wrap up of her story later, but like that's the end of her story.
But I like the idea that like Danny deemed her an innocent party. Like what she like, we do get an implication that their affair had started before Danny died.
But an affair like that does not deserve murder.
And she knows that. I think she knows that Yana didn't have anything to do with the murder. Like, yeah, what she was doing with the husband was fucked up, but she didn't ever have anything to do with the killing and would not have wanted anything to do with that. And it was not, so I think she kind of like deems her innocent. And then when because Yana had called Ted comes back. When he shows up, we do get Darcy even saying that, Danny chased her off. She was always the softer one or whatever, she was always like the nicer one.
Yeah, you're right. Darcy wouldn't have given a shit. She would have had her dead with Ted.
Well, again, we can just talk about it. Ted comes home after this.
Yes, this is what we're getting towards.
She admits to she has remorse for killing Olin. She basically admits to it. She's like, I'm gonna have to reckon with that. She would have done I think she would have done the same thing to Yana.
She's had the because she also did the same. Right, I'm gonna call him the Golem, the Wooden Man.
Sure, the Wooden Man.
Yeah. Because he murdered also the roommate too.
I don't know. I thought the roommate just all died separately. I didn't think that the golem had anything to
Oh,
do with
okay.
that.
You're right. I was gonna say because it's not an innocent kill, but Danny. Yeah. So Danny sent the golem to
Danny
his.
doesn't realize that Owen's innocent until after she's already killed.
Yes,
Or
because she's
Darcy, I
like
mean, doesn't realize
Darcy, but
he's innocent
she's
until
like
after she's already killed
because
him. So
because
she does feel guilt about that.
and I think it plays into when Ted, being a big piece of shit, is manipulating her. Is like, well, the police chief said it was fine. Like, or the detective, do you believe him, right? And like, Darcy does have a look on her face, like, I have no reason not to believe this policeman. Um, so that is where we're coming, and it's such a, it's so brutal. It works and it's part of it. I fucking like, I want Darcy to live, and you hate the way this goes.
Yeah.
Ted goes, and it's just shot so well. Darcy explains everything we've discovered with
Well, yeah,
Ivan, and
Ted comes in and he says the thing about chasing, Yana out and about Olin and how she feels bad about that. But then we see that she's got Ted's wedding ring, so we know that she knows the whole deal now, and she does lay it out like we see the actual conversation between Ted and Ivan. Um,
oh, that
you
was
see,
gross.
this is the most infuriating part of the movie for me. The fact that this milk toast loser is like, oh, she'd never get over me. She'd be ruined forever. She would
Like, yeah,
never
why
get over.
not?
Like, fuck
Ivan,
you.
Ivan's just like, you just leave her. Like, I don't have to do
That's
this,
what
man.
Darcy says. Like, yeah, she would have been upset and hurt, and it would have sucked for a while, but she'd have got over it. Like, you are not so special that you could, like no one
Yeah,
would
she would
ever
have cried.
recover.
She would have cried to me, and I would have
Yeah.
helped her heal. That's it. And he's
Um,
like, but
but
then,
then we
but
also get the real reason, I think, which is the house. This
well,
dude
that's
is
what he says.
obsessed with staying in this
I
house. He's like, we
sunk,
wouldn't have gotten to keep the house.
I sunk everything into it, and it's like, fuck that. That ain't that great. And no house is.
I mean, shit,
No,
Ivan, even when the guy you're hiring to murder your wife is even like, or you could just leave her. You don't, it's kind of like in Fargo. There's like a note from Fargo there, right? Where they're like, it's like, borrow the money from her or your fucking wife. I love that.
I think the one thing, and it's part of it, right? It's part of horror and everything. Um, his conversation, Ted and Ivan's conversation, and Ivan is a fucked up individual, and he's like, oh, basically, like, but I could rape her first,
Clearly
right?
floating rape and takes a couple runs at it.
Yeah,
Like, doesn't
it
take
happens
no
like
for an
one
answer
or
right
two,
away.
and I'm like, ooh, like
Jesus.
I get why it's included, but it was also one of the things I'm like, all right, you didn't have to have that because we already know Ivan's a sick fuck.
I think the purpose of that is to show you that like
Ted's
Ted is turning loose a really like it's not even like
it's not a hitman.
yeah, he's not even getting a professional. He's turning loose a real psychopath on his
Yeah,
wife. Like this could go. He knows deep down in his mind that something could go really wrong here, and he still does it
yeah,
anyway. He knows
and
Ivan.
my
He even mentions later that he knows Ivan's a psychopath and kind of like let him out and hired him to kind of have him around for this type of shit. Like there's an
I missed
implication
that,
that like
but I just hope that did not happen in the whatever transpired. It
they
just because
don't. They I think they imply that it did not. Like I
okay,
would say that I think they
because
where they leave it. I
it
think you're
makes
supposed
it
to think that
it
did not
somehow just makes it so much more sinister and not in a horror movie way, where you're like, ah, yeah. But so we get all that conversation, and Darcy's like being like, but she goes like, I was gonna fucking kill you, but I'm actually gonna make your life worse because that's the real punishment. You
Yeah, she
know,
wants to ruin him instead.
yeah, which is true, which is the truth of like murderers
Yeah.
or fucking school
I was
shooters.
talking to my son about that one day. I forget what we were talking about. Somebody might have been Epstein or somebody killing themselves, some other piece of shit.
Yeah, like
And it was like, in a way, you're like, yeah, fuck them, but also like they kind of got away with it.
yeah,
They never really like got any real punishment that mattered. They
no,
lived a life of luxury up till the last minute, and then they died, and then that was it, the end for
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Like
It's 100% the truth. Um. So yeah, so she goes,
this is where he sets the trap for her.
yeah,
The
awful,
door, the thing we saw at the beginning, it's
and you're
basically
just
like
going, why is there?
probably, this place was like a stable or a castle, so it was probably some kind of like loft situation where there used to
You
be a
have the
ladder there,
you have
something.
you have the best answer there, but she sets it up, and he puts the phone over there because they do establish earlier on in the movie that this house has awful cell phone service. So he's like,
Yeah.
I'm leaving my cell phone here. I'm going to the
The
hospital.
only place where it has service, I'm going to leave it
Is,
here,
like,
so when I
right
call it, it
here.
rings.
And you come pick it up, and like Darcy's just like balled up in a corner, basically just waiting and in her own state of trance. It rings. She gets up, takes a couple steps, falls. Then we cut to Ted coming back to the house. I'm sorry.
Well, he sends Ivan back to the house.
Sorry, you're right. Ivan comes back to the house, and
Basically, what happens, he sets the trap, she falls, we don't know if she's dead or alive, and then Ivan is sent in for cleanup.
Yes, and then Ivan gets in, and we get our great Gollum running around, and you think, and she does some hand gestures.
We bring back the weird connected, only now it's her and the golem,
connected, but you think he's gonna crush Ivan. He crushes Ivan's head.
I think this is a really smart thing we can talk about, because the Wooden Man feels like the show. It feels like what we've been building to, but actually, all the best scares are in the body of the film. And as I'm watching the Wooden Man scenes the second time, it very much feels like what we were talking about, like the end of a Tales from the Crypt episode.
Yeah, that's what
where a stalk, and there's a guy kind of slowly coming towards you, and there's a dude like backed into a corner, no! And he falls and he breaks his leg in a compound fracture, which is the only kind of leg break that exists in movies where the bone actually comes through the skin, which is like the least common type of break.
Except for in a movie you haven't watched yet.
Okay. Well, I'm glad, but every time there's that, I was like, oh, compound fracture.
Yeah.
Like, anytime somebody breaks something in a movie, I was like, that bone's come through the skin, baby.
Always.
But they don't pull the trigger. Darcy actually dies before the Wooden Man can finish off Ivan. He survives. Like, he's literally lifting him up by the head and holding him and about to do the head splatter crush, and she dies.
Mm-hmm.
And
so his powers.
So it's like, they've teased you with the Wooden Man, and you do know what the Wooden Man is capable of because we've seen it off screen, but they never really pull the trigger on that. It's honestly, kind of a bold move for this movie. But it also makes you realize that the scariest shit is already,
and especially it's supposed to be
scared without it, you know?
It tricks you into being a creepy doll movie.
Yeah.
And it is, but you're right. You don't get that payoff. You get a cut to him in locked up in a hospital in the mental institution, which is like crazy. It's like Ted must have such influence and like be such a well-respected doctor that to just be like, I recommend it you be here.
This is kind of classic horror movie stuff too. The head of a mental institution who has like power over all the patients and everything, and can that's like Hellraiser 2 kind of vibes here. And I like the idea that we go from Ivan's encounter with what we've kind of been feeling like is the monster of the movie to his encounter with who's the real monster in the movie, which is Ted. And then Ted has him committed. Ivan is now basically a sympathetic character who wants to confess his sins and is trapped by this psycho.
And Ivan's just like, man, I won't say anything. I'd rather rot in prison and have a clean conscience
than burn in hell. Yeah.
And Ted the skeptic goes, there's no fucking hell, you dumbass. But what he does, and it's a low key moment. We've been kind of every time we get into the mental institution, they've been showing this patient who has.
They mostly just establish the back of his head,
yeah,
right? You see the harness on somebody's head, and you can tell he's chewing or grinding his jaw or something. You can see it kind of moving.
It's a Hannibal Lecter mask for the most part, right? But we never see the back of his head, and if you're not fully paying attention, you do kind of forget about it. It's just a little bit of filmmaking, but Ted clearly takes his mask off, lets him in the room, and
turns him loose on Ivan. We see him go after Ivan's foot.
Yeah, his foot, and you have to imagine this Ivan's just going to get.
Well, literally, Ted is talking when he's talking to Ivan, makes mention of some patient on patient violence and things that happen all the time, and he's talking about because the thing where Ted or Ivan wants to confess, and he's like, but if you confess, that's going to raise all sorts of questions about how I didn't notice such an obvious psychopath, and I let you out, and I actually hired you and let you work here. And that's the thing where I was starting to be like, oh, he kind of used this guy. He knew he didn't even he might not even have known what he was going to use this guy for, but he knew he wanted this guy available to him.
Oh, there's a plan for this guy. There's control. It's all there. So that
But anyway, like
happens.
I said, like it's that kind of final reveal of the impotence of the wooden man reveals the power of the true villain of the piece,
Hmm.
which is Ted. We even see Ted burn the wooden man. He has like
Oh, that's what
ultimate power. He
that's what he
tortures
says.
the
He's like
wooden man.
down to ashes,
Yeah,
whatever. Because
it
once
was
again,
nothing to him. Like,
he's a skeptic.
yep.
And then this might be one of my the ending might the whole movie, but the ending might propel this to be my favorite horror of the year
It is
because
a bold move for a movie this scary
because
to essentially end on a joke.
it's a joke. It ends on a joke that pays off. It's
Yeah, it's so
so
good.
comedic.
It's incredible.
And I rewound it. I went back just once and twice because I wanted to get a look at the bellhop.
Yeah.
And it comes back to because you're like, fuck, Ted you know he's not going to.
Ted lives. Ted gets away with it. Essentially, gets away with it. He comes home. He's a package waiting for him.
So, but there's a package waiting for him, and it's based off the conversation of from the bell. It was like
the hotel bell that Darcy told him about earlier.
Yeah, and if you ring it, a zombie bellhop.
Basically, it summons the ghost of an evil bellhop and she says the last two people who rang it both got killed. Mm-hmm. And he's like, go ahead, ring it. I don't care. And she's like, it's the kind of, like I said when we were talking earlier about, it's the way they establish their relationship kind of in the earlier scene.
There's also more that we're talking about and realizing. It also goes back to Darcy saying, everything in the shop's cursed, but I uncurse it when I leave, when it leaves the shop. So you buy it, if you bought that bell and you ring it a bunch of times at home, she would have lifted
the curse from it, yeah.
And that also makes me think, once again, it is a joke. It does end on a joke. She might have known all this was gonna kind of come to be able to have that bell mailed to the house in aftermath.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I actually speculated. I was talking about it with Sarah, and I was speculating. I was like, does she know that the trap door is open, and does she voluntarily fall through? And I think that maybe she came out there knowing that she might die, knowing that whatever happened out there, she might not live through.
Yeah.
But I don't think she necessarily knew the trap door was there, because I don't think she would put herself at risk before she had she wasn't even close to finishing what she set out to do.
Yeah, she was going to do the job.
I think so. It's like, I think she maybe thought ahead and was like, I might not survive this. When the end all be all, I might not make it. But I don't think she knew about the trapdoor. I don't think that part's intentional.
Yeah, it's not like Daredevil blind powers where it's like he could actually see.
Yeah. No, I don't think she has Daredevil powers.
But no, it's such a good.
Yeah, it's a fun ending. We get him. He pensively sits there and thinks about ringing it, and then he can't resist. Like, she knows him so well that she knows he cannot help himself. He'll have to ring that bell to prove that it's not real. And that's what's gonna get him. And then he waits, and he's looking around, and they wait the perfect amount of time, and you think nothing's really gonna happen, and they kick in with the music a little bit. And then the last shot is him at the table, the bellhop standing next to him, a full-on zombie bellhop. Do give out a little chuckle. It's like it's like the movie is so intense, it gives you that last little bit of catharsis at the end. Like, oh, okay,
I love it
now. Ooh,
I love
story
it.
over. All right, we made it.
It's so earned, and it's kind of the way we're talking about Tales from the Crypt, or like. But this movie also has the feel of like a short storied horror like story you would read in like elementary, like not elementary school, but like high school, or middle
school. Something from Tales from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Scary Stories of the Dark, right? It has that energy to it too, and like those would end like that too, right? And it was like all safe in the house, but Danny got up to go get a glass of milk, and the door was open, and it's over.
Yeah.
Or whatever, like.
Yeah, leave you with just a little something, a little spook out the door.
And we know what happens. We know he's like, it's so good. I'm so glad we watched it. our goal for the next few months or so of the show are to cover newer releases.
Hey, 2024 is gonna go down in history as a great year for horror. I think so.
I'm so excited to see what McCarthy makes next.
Yeah.
Right so far he's 2 for 2.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I did go back and revisit Caveat after this because I liked Oddity so much, and it didn't live up. It's not as good as Oddity to me, but it is a very solid horror movie, a very solid premise, and like executed in an interesting way and stuff. You know what I mean? He's doing things, he's playing with ideas and and doing things you haven't really seen before, and that's such a big part of keeping me interested in a horror movie these days. Another thing that doesn't really appeal to me about the Terrifier movies is just like I'm just kind of over slasher. I'm over kill for kill's sake. Like I need something a little more substantive these days, you know?
The whole there's a whole conversation rant to have for them, but this is it's a good way to put like something like Oddity. You know how like comics they'll say like, oh, that's a comics comic.
Yeah.
Or like that's your musician's favorite musician.
Yeah. I remember that idea of the very first season of Mr. Show is like that. It's like this is sketch comedy for like comedians.
Yeah.
Like normal people barely even like this.
Yeah. Like I think Oddity, and I think normal people would like Oddity.
Yeah, I think Oddity's more accessible than that, but I know what you're saying.
I think Oddity and like I think like a Caveat and like those movies are like, oh, this is your horror guys. This is your movie person's favorite horror movie of the year.
Somebody who watches more than just like the 3 big horror releases every year. Somebody who is like in the trenches, watching those Shudder exclusives, watching those, and watching Carved on Hulu. I'm just like, we're just digging in.
And I gotta give Carved a real watch. And
I mean, listen, I jumped on your tweet because I thought it was funny, but it was only okay. No, it's not great. There's a lot of like here's 3 or 4 good effects shot, and here's a lot of people standing around in a small room talking.
Yeah, I fell asleep, but I was primed to fall. Carved.
It had some fun stuff in it. It wasn't a waste or anything.
Very different conversation. Carved and Mr. Crockett. They show the same actor, same Hulu. I need to give both those a real watch.
I haven't seen Mr. Crockett yet. I keep forgetting about that one.
I watched the first 20 minutes. I liked it, but it was in my time of being very like, oh, I can't focus. I'm just gonna... Anyway, Oddity's fucking great though. I love your point about movies like this, and this is the type of stuff that gets exciting and wanting to continue to do this. My one note is this movie. I did have a note in there at one point before I knew that Darcy was going to die. I was like, man, we need an animated show of Darcy and the Wooden Man, like a Beetlejuice cartoon
where they're like buddies and they just like run around and have adventures together.
Yeah,
I would have watched no lie, if they wanted to turn this into a series where Darcy used a different
Darcy's
haunted items to exact revenge on people. Yeah, I would have watched that.
Well, it could have there could be a whole short story spin-off of like Max called Darcy's Oddities.
Yeah, like you do it like almost like a Murder She Wrote style show. In every episode, there's like a mystery, and she solves it or gets revenge for it, or like saves somebody, or like rights a wrong by using some kind of haunted item. I'd watch that.
This is the shelf. Every episode would just be like, and this here is the tale of the magic. She
tells you the tale of the thing, yeah. And one episode could be the backstory. You'd actually get to see the thing with the bellhop and his whole deal. Like that would be an episode.
Shudder, do I got an idea for you?
Yeah,
McCarthy, you're probably not going to get that much because it's Shudder, but you want another paycheck?
Listen. Just because she dies in the end, maybe she doesn't die actually.
I've never seen. No movie has all things are real until you see their deaths.
That's right.
But
until they throw Michael Myers in a meat grinder, anything can happen.
don't think this movie is one for a sequel. I don't think they're clamoring. I think I imagine the filmmakers more of like, I'm just gonna put the glass eye in the next movie.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be a nod to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
But no, man, this was such a good choice.
Yeah, I hope I didn't like overdo it. Maybe we should have saved this one since it's so good. I hope the other stuff we watch holds up as well.
Now
But
we'll discuss what to do next, and you know where to find us, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Steph always
listening.
so carefully puts in
He
some
puts in these
stuff here.
things. All right. Stay frightful, everyone. Bye.